A lot of companies and a lot of sales leaders and marketing leaders are very focused on what I would call vanity metrics. How big is my pipeline? How many likes did I get on my last post? None of those have got a straight line to revenue. I'm more worried about what is the rate of bringing revenue into the business. What is your customer acquisition cost? You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI properly. And I think that when it gets to those internal productivity tools, they're now commercially available. They are fast. I think that the prices are going to go down.
What if the biggest thing holding your business back isn't what you don't know, but what you keep getting wrong? In this episode of Growth Unlocked, we unpack the biggest and most costly mistakes that business leaders are making and how to fix them before they burn time, trust, and profit. Darryl Grauman is our guest today. He's an advisor, investor, and GTM strategist to some of Australia and New Zealand's fastest growing tech companies, and will share his expert insights with us. Darryl, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thanks for the invite, Kieran. Much appreciated. No pressure on me giving good advice. Okay, let's see how this goes.
Look, if I think there's anyone that's going to be able to give good advice with context, it's going to be you. So I'm excited for this.
Cool. All right, looking forward to it.
So, Darryl, what are the three most common mistakes that you see businesses and go-to-market leaders making, and why do you think they keep repeating?
I think that's a bit of a contextual question, and it really depends on the stage of growth of a company. I've worked with a lot of startups, scale-ups, and more mature companies, and there are issues that come in all the way. And the one that I see most is it comes down to product market fit, and go to market. And one of the biggest mistakes I can see is, and it's probably across all of them, and it's one of the most common mistakes, is that when organizations have an idea for either a product or a new product or a new product line, one of the biggest failures is in identifying the market opportunity properly. And why do I say that? A lot of people will give you feedback and go, that's a good idea, that's great. Okay, but interest doesn't actually mean somebody's going to open up their wallets and buy something. So people have to kind of temper that and think very, very carefully about product design, product market fit, okay, before they go off and actually build products. So I also think that across and people have got to think about that across the company, and not just at a product management level. It has to be at an execution level. How much is it going to take to get the product out the door? How fast can we manufacture this product? How many can we take out there? Is it going to be single tenant? Is it multi-tenant? All of these things need to be taken into consideration before somebody kind of launches something to market, because they really have to understand what that market fit needs to be. So yeah, I think that's I think that's one of the most common. Another one of the most common things that I see, especially in startup businesses, is that new customers are treated like gold. And it's the right thing to do, because those first early adopter customers, those first customers are going to give you all of the feedback that they can. They're going to tell you what's good and what's bad about your product and everything else. But if, let's say, you've got 10 customers, and you've got 10 customers telling you 10 different things, and then you start to customize your product for each one of those individually, I see a lot of people becoming more of a professional services organization in just supporting those 10 customers, rather than drawing that back and building a product, okay, which can then be scaled for a general release. And I think that in the startup world, a lot of startups never get out of startup land, because they're now becoming professional services and so focused on those customers, and they've lost sight of the strategic objective of the product itself. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, I think that's those are some of the things that could happen.
Okay, it's a really good point. So it's essentially around validating product market fit before you kind of push the gas too much on going down that path, and then making sure that you're not getting pulled in too many different directions by your customers.
Correct, 100%. And then again, your back end and your front end have got to be super aligned. This is why I take a look at the genius of a guy like Elon Musk. okay, where he's able to ensure that the execution and the production facilities match the demand as it's happening. And it comes down to just-in-time building as well, but he manages to get it done. And there are not a lot of executive teams that I can see that are so well aligned from the production process through to the sales process. So it's that alignment which I think is super important, especially at an exec level.
That seems to be a really common issue that a lot of businesses do face, is getting really clear around like looking at what your sales pipeline looks like, doing proper forecasting, and then understanding, what kind of resource and people and whatever is kind of happening on the operational side of the business is needed to make that happen. Because the last thing you want to do is be signing up new customers and, things aren't going well, and then you've just got a revolving door situation. How
Correct.
can businesses address that problem?
I might not be popular for this answer, okay, but I'm going to tell it to you like I think it is. A lot of companies and a lot of sales leaders and marketing leaders are very focused on what I would call vanity metrics. How big is my pipeline? Okay. How many likes did I get on my last post? How many marketing qualified leads do I have? How many clicks did I get on my last campaign? None of those have got a straight line to revenue. Okay. And this gets to me a lot because you've got hero guys that are out there touting the size of their pipeline. But I'm more worried about, okay, what is the rate of bringing revenue into the business? What is your customer acquisition cost? And how do you actually do that? What are your go-to-market experiments? Which ones have failed and which ones have worked? So I think that it's those kinds of things that if you understand the base metrics, okay, not the vanity metrics, the base metrics, then you're starting to have a business that can forecast properly and take shape. I mean, people who are forecasting a business on a very inflated pipeline, okay, are just going to come short in the long term. But businesses who understand what their revenue retention rate is and what their customer acquisition rate and costs are, okay, really understand their sales cycles, really qualify their opportunities, and don't pay people on the size of the pipeline, but on the revenue that's come through the door and executed. Then you're talking about having good forecasting measures, okay. But the vanity metrics. The vanity metrics can put people onto the most incorrect path and cause a tragedy down the line. That's not what you look for.
Mm. Yeah, it's such a good point, and I think that the trap that a lot of these people fall into is looking at vanity metrics because it kind of supports the initiatives that they're working on and validates the reason why they've probably got a job, to be honest. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and even just thinking about this concept of brand, right, and like how important perception of a
Yep.
brand is, and these
Yep.
brand related activities that are very hard to measure, in terms of impact, ROI, those types of things. It's over the last kind of, let's call it 5 to 10 years, as we've gone from having all these activities that are running kind of offline to moving online, where things can quote unquote be measured with your CRM and analytics tools.
Yep.
It's become like an obsession with people focusing on these metrics, right?
Correct. But then there are a lot of metrics that are in there, and it really depends on your type of business. If you're a consumer-based business and then your way of touching customers is via your marketing, your social media, etc. If you're a business that is selling in the enterprise, then it comes down to, in my opinion, three different pillars that the business needs to look at. And the first, and it's exactly the same as the traits of a good BDM, the traits of a good SDM, the traits of all good executives, that they should understand and be able to work in three pillars, which are the commercial pillar, okay, which is somebody's got to be commercially savvy and understand the backbone of the business, because that's numbers are important. The second thing is relationships and relationship management. and the quality of relationships. And that comes down to things like executing uniformly at a high level all the time, being consistent all the time. Having if I'm in an IT company and I get a great service on my first ticket, but then I get poor service on my second ticket, the poor service is the one that I remember. So it's that kind of consistency that you're looking for. And the third pillar, specifically nowadays, is actually in the product. In my side of the world, it's technology. Having a really good understanding of the technology that supports the business. Whether I'm working in an ISV or an MSP, understanding their underlying technology stack and how they're delivering those services is important. So that cross between the technology, the people and people skills, communication, relationships, all right, and commercials, that's important. I mean, if I've got a CTO, let's say, I'm expecting to be high on the technology, okay, maybe a little bit lower on the commercials, and hopefully not too much lower on the people. But then you're looking at, let's say, a sales director. Hopefully, they're high on the commercials, high on the relationships, maybe a bit lower on the technology. But it's that balance of those stacks which I think are important in all roles and all relationship, and the way that your company is balanced to take it out to market.
Really good points. Okay, based off your work across a range of different companies, Darryl, what separates a high performing business from one that looks good but actually breaks under pressure?
So first of all, I have to say it's the people, okay, and the leadership. And imagine if you've got a CEO who is super emotional, and when the pressure comes up, then they exhibit different tendencies. They throw their toys, do things. You get a culture which is something needs to be an emergency to get it done, and then that becomes the company culture. So no, what you're looking for is cool-headed, calm, and thoughtful, considered leadership. People who take customers into account and are data-driven. Show me the facts behind this. Just everybody cool down. Hold on a second. Let's just map this out. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's map it out from the beginning. Tell me where we are now. What are the decisions that we need to make? Let's just sit down and have this discussion. Nobody's shouting. Nobody's screaming. Let's get that done. So I think that company culture is one of the most important things. The second thing that I would always talk about is, and we mentioned it a little earlier, which is uniformity of execution. I go back to Elon. If he's making a Tesla Model 3, it's coming off the production line exactly the same, maybe different colors, but coming off the production line exactly the same all the time. So if I'm in a services business, IT services, if I'm an ISV having application, each user should experience a uniform service. Whether it's the guy who is from a 3 years of user business, who's an SMB, all the way to the executive at the top level over there at a 3,000 user business, if they log the same ticket, it should be a uniform experience. So that's it's those two things that I would see as extremely important in that type of environment, because then you can see where your variations are. You can see where your bottlenecks are. You can see where your problems are. Okay, because again, if you don't have the uniformity and it's all up and down all the time, you've got no idea where something is going to break. Okay, until it's broken. There's no early warning sign. There's no orange on a dashboard. It goes from green to, oh crap, it's not working. All right, it's red. If you've got that uniformity and you're measuring things and you get a blip somewhere, you go, something's orange, let me do something about it now. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective.
I definitely agree with you, and that's something that we're thinking about a lot. I guess let's make that practical. I mean, like, how do you see businesses actually executing on that? I can imagine that it's a mixture of having documentation with, SOPs, having the right kind of systems like project management tools in place, etc. Anything else
Yes.
that?
Um, there are great tools out there. There are amazing tools, but there's always human in the loop, HITL. Okay. And it's always up to a human who is there. The things that matter are the things that are not automated. If something is automated, it provides a uniform service, that's great. Okay, which is fine. Automated password resets, great. That gets done the same for everybody. It's the other things that cannot be automated, that are there, that display your level of service. Okay, that's your secret sauce that you as a company have, no matter what industry it's in. How do you take those things and make them uniform and make them better and keep raising the bar? And it comes down to everything from the systems, the processes, the hiring processes, bringing the right people on board at the right time. Looking back at my time at AWS, one of the things that I found most effective was the hiring processes, where you've got and it's no secret that there's this person who attends the interviewing and the review process, called a bar raiser. And they're specifically there to ensure that the person that you're interviewing is going to raise the bar in the organization. And by having that continual kind of process, you're staffing with the right people for the right jobs at the right time. So for me, a lot of it comes down to, you can have, everybody's got access to the same tools or the similar tools. But when you bring people in that make these things hum, I think that's the best thing that you could do. So right people, right time, then you're away. I also like it when there are, and this is where AI is nicely coming into play, where organizations are able to take some of those processes that are previously couldn't be automated and finding ways to improve them, not fully automate them, but finding a way to improve them or accelerate the people that are doing those processes by giving them new and improved tools. So I honestly, I think it's a great time to be around, because this is, I've personally, I'm old, so I've lived through the internet coming, and now I'm just watching the AI coming, and I'm looking at this and going, this is just going to be phenomenal. So looking forward to see what those and which of those companies are going to come out ahead based on new tech stacks.
Oh yeah, we've got a wild 5-10 years ahead of us, that's for sure. No doubt about that. I
Yeah.
guess on the topic of AI, Darryl, I mean, you've seen AI promises made across a bunch of different industries. What's a mistake that go-to-market leaders are making right now when adopting AI into their workflows?
I think people are holding themselves back because there is a whole load of fear out there. And look, fear, ethics, governance, etc., absolutely a must, but not a stopper. Okay, not a full roadblock. And my biggest thing that I see is people are fearing moving forward because they want to get everything perfect underlying the securities, the policies, the procedures, and everything else. And I can tell you, I think it's a good idea. And there are a lot of people making a lot of money doing AI security reviews and all of these kinds of things. But there are ways that you can prototype things and try things out at a very, very low cost and at a very, very low risk. And so I don't see organizations, I see organizations saying, we have to fix all of these security holes before we do anything, instead of saying, what can we prototype so that we understand it better, so that we then know what to go and fix, and what security holes, and if there are any ways around it. So I just feel that a lot of leaders in New Zealand are kind of stuck. And that's why I'm working with some groups, organizations right now, to do these executive AI roundtables to try and really let these execs understand what the art of the possible really is, and also helping them try and figure out what they should prototype. Is it something where you have got an internal productivity thing that you want to do? Is it a customer facing thing that you want to do? Is it something that you want to build into an application? So those are the kinds of things that you want to get people thinking about and talking about. So yeah.
Something that I have been really blown away by, and where I think, businesses can start leveraging AI today, is how you actually start to inject AI to drive insights through your own data, right? Everyone's been really excited about ChatGPT and Claude. They've basically ingested all the information from the internet, super smart models now that know, everything at like a PhD level across all these different disciplines. And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. But how interesting is it when you're starting to use like MCPs and even just a simple advancement with like HubSpot and OpenAI having their native integration? You can flick a switch on, turn on the deep research, and get these LLMs to essentially start analyzing your own customer data inside your CRM to draw insights around, the type of customers you're selling to, the reason why you're losing deals, analyzing trends. Like that's the kind of stuff that would have taken, an analyst like, probably a couple of days, if not a week or so. You can do that in 15 minutes now, right? And then even just thinking about, like, for us, like we've been trying to make a decision on which model that we go with. And it's really hard because, like you said, none of them are perfect. They all have a trade-off. Like we're a Google shop, right? So we use Google Workspace, Gmail, etc. And with Google now, Gemini making these pretty big advances in the last couple of months. We've been doing some testing with Notebook LM, and I think
It's
that
very cool. All
it's
right.
amazing, right? And but just
You may
feeding it
not
all
have
the
a job as
context.
a podcaster much longer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, now I could probably do a much better job than I could. But just feeding with all those context around like transcripts and previous conversations and your like internal knowledge and your IP, and being able to share those projects between different team members, I think is hugely valuable. And it's not perfect, but I think that the upside to that and being able to get started with that, today or tomorrow is hugely valuable.
Absolutely huge. Between Google, with the way that you can rapidly construct a Google gem, same with Microsoft and being able to put copilots together. Amazon have got Q. Honestly, it's phenomenal. We're living in a great time. And I'm for all three of those, the internal productivity of people is just going to go through the roof. And I've got this thing where it's a quote I've stolen from the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, where I keep telling people that you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI properly. And I think that when it gets to those internal productivity tools, just the ones that you've just spoken about, they're now commercially available. They are fast. I think that the prices are going to go down. But again, $50 a month, how many hours is a person saving, or how many more hours productive are they going to be? That's the question. And so if you have a company who is really well put together and using AI well versus a company who's not, I know who's going to come out on top. Specifically, those organizations that are professional services based, when competition is going to come flying past them like a bat out of hell, providing the same services, potentially even better at a much lower cost. And so there's a lot of these consulting firms, business consulting companies, marketing, a whole range of organizations that are going to have to revamp their businesses to figure out how to deliver the same services with less people at a better price. And so I think that I think we're going to see a revolution in professional services over the next 2 or 3 years.
Even outside of professional services, like I saw recently, Microsoft laid off like 9,000 people, right? Like a lot of their go-to-market teams in sales, and their profits have never been better.
Yep,
Satya Nadella even admits to, I think, 30% of their code now being written by AI. So it's not even
yep.
services companies; it's the companies that are building these AI products, right?
Correct. And they're launching things that they're using internally for use externally as well. There's a Python library that was released the other day, which is absolutely superb, which extracts all different file types, be it audio, be it video, be it docx, almost anything, into a format that their respective AIs can consume super easily. And this is just making it simpler and cheaper for people to use AI. And so if I look at the fact they've been using it internally, they've been using it to actually construct, some of these products and product codes. I think it's fantastic. The way that Meta are launching or releasing some of these free to air models, shareware models, fantastic as well. I'm just looking to see where organizations take it.
Absolutely. I guess like on the topic of just technology in general, not just withstanding AI, a lot of founders actually, I feel, over-engineer their tech stack, right? The most commonly, like mid-market companies have between about sort of 20 to 40 tools within their tech stack. What do you think is the real cost of building complexity before having clarity?
Ah, here's the it depends on the type of company that you're in. We get these born in the cloud organizations that are that they'll use a really nice tech stack that they will put together themselves, and everybody's usually, and that'll be a pretty neat tech stack. Between CRM, between HR, billing, finance, coding, everything. The problem comes in the bigger organizations who become a little bit too big, and they have an organization that start to go off in different tangents. Okay, where one manager goes, "Ooh, I could use that," and he puts it on the company credit card, and another person does, and you've got cloud sprawl after that. And the solution is, it's a conversation that I had the other day. I was sitting in a boardroom, and they were going, "We've got a problem." Okay, what's the problem? Oh, people are using all these tools. They're using OpenAI. They're using Grok. They're using. And I said to them, "So, what tool have you given them to use as a corporate standard?" "Nothing." "Well, okay. They want to make their lives easier and better. Okay, why haven't you given them something?" "Oh, maybe we should." "Okay." Stop them from going out. Okay, somebody in the organization has to have a degree of technical control, but can't be lagging. Okay, needs to be upfront, needs to be going, "Hey, listen, okay, this has just been released. We're going to try this out with 5 people. It's a two-way door. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, hey, we go back and we try again." Okay, but I'm doing 3 or 4 experiments this in the next quarter. These are the experiments that we're doing. Tell everybody about it, because so that they know something is coming. Otherwise, you're right. Sprawl all over the place. Terrible place to be in, because to reconsolidate after that is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem that we see time after time is that businesses jump into, like you said, kind of launching a new tool without thinking about how does it fit into the overall ecosystem, right? Because it's kind of like going to build a house without having a blueprint. No one's going to do it, right? You need to engage typically an architect and an engineer and have some plans that you're working off. Most businesses skip that step and just go straight to building the house, and they wonder why things start to fall apart, right? And so I think being intentional and spending the time slowing down to think about the whole ecosystem, the key tools within that stack, and importantly, what does the data flow look like? How are they going to integrate? How are they going to talk to each other? Because if they're not, then that's going to create a whole nother issue with data being siloed in different places, which just creates so much headache down the line.
100%. I use something and I keep on repeating it so that people kind of get it into their heads. I keep saying to people, you can't build strength and speed on top of dysfunction. Okay, you got to get that foundation right, just like you said. Okay, get that foundation right, and you build off it. If you don't have it right, then sooner or later you're going to be in a hole. I've How many startups have had to re-architect their product from scratch? How many times until they get it right? Because they've built for now, not for 3, 4, 5 years time. Where's it going to go to? How are you going to do it? How are you going to continue to develop, etc.? So yeah, you're right, 100% right.
I guess like switching gears a little bit and with your putting your sales hat on and as an advisor, Darryl, I mean, one thing that I've noticed is a lot of companies think that by hiring a CRO or a head of sales, it's going to fix revenue. Yeah, what's the biggest mistake in terms of how they typically approach that hire?
It's a very interesting question. It's a tough question because there are different organizations, there are different ways that people perceive it. The first thing that I say is that don't expect a hero. Okay, you can't say, "Hey, I'm going to hire this guy. He's a great sales guy. He's done fantastically well in other places, and when he comes in, he's going to triple our pipeline and our revenue and everything else." But then they don't have a environment for him to plug into properly. Okay, so by expecting a Superman, okay, and not having processes, procedures, an ecosystem for that person to plug into, okay, then they're not going to get that Superman. That person is going to be disillusioned. They're not going to get what they expected, and it's going to land up in a big bust up. So that's the first thing. Don't expect a Superman. The next thing is that he needs to be able to plug in. He needs to be able to plug into that ecosystem, which is sales and delivery, execution, and everything else that goes with it. It's that person needs to understand and be confident that the delivery pieces of the business are going to execute well and that are continually executing, because one of the things that a good salesperson is always, or good head of sales, good CRO is always there for, is that customer referrals are gold. Okay, if you're looking after your current customers and you are customer obsessed as much as what you can be, and you keep on delivering, okay, that is gold. Understanding your customer retention costs is good. Understanding your customer acquisition costs is great. So now you can take somebody who is now a CRO and he understands what the product is. He understands how it's being delivered. Okay. He knows what's on the shelves to sell. He's not selling anything that we don't have in the cupboard. So by plugging him into that entire environment makes very sure that you've got that uniformity across the business and that everybody is very, very clear on what everybody is doing. And from there, with that knowledge, that person should then be able to either build a sales team, morph the sales team, align the sales team the right way, and then start to generate revenue.
Fantastic points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Darryl, if you could remove just one habit from every go-to-market exec that you coach or consult with, what would it be and why?
We said it earlier. I'd remove the vanity metrics. Remove them, get rid of them. Okay, I must tell you, any head of marketing who comes to me now and says to me, "Oh, our campaign generated how many clicks?" Okay, I'll show them the door. Never mind that. I'll show them a window, and hopefully I'm on a top floor, because it's a vanity metric. It doesn't translate into anything. Show me things that are tangible. Show me things. We've had an AI roundtable. Okay. How many engagements has that resulted in? 3. Okay. What have we sold? How have we sold it? Where are we going next? Those are the kinds of things that are important. So clicks, size of pipeline, sometimes can be misleading. So yeah, that's the one thing that I'd love to get away from and stop talking about.
Well said. Darryl, been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for all your input. It's been very, very stimulating. If people want to follow along on your journey or learn more about what you're doing or just connect with you in general, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, just find me on LinkedIn, say hi. I'm really, really bad at getting back the messages, but I will sooner or later. So yeah, just catch me on LinkedIn. Easy enough.
Amazing. Darryl, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Kieran. Appreciate it. Talk again.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Growth Unlocked Beyond Scale. If you enjoyed the show, it would really be appreciated if you can leave a 5-star review wherever you consume your podcasts. And while you're there, why not subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes? If you'd like to learn about how to drive profitable scale in your business, gain clarity on your direction, and improve your business valuation, click the link in the show notes to connect with Kieran.